feel implantation? If you are trying to conceive, you have probably looked up the earliest signs and curious if you know if that embryo is implanting. I empathize with wanting to get pregnant and trying and being in that 2-week wait and wanting to know as soon as possible if you're going to get a positive pregnancy test or not. And today we're going to cover implantation signs. Can you feel it? When do you know if that embryo is implanted? And much, much more. I'm Dr. Lora Shahine. I'm a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist helping people conceive for over 20 years. I'm a former fertility patient myself, and I empathize with anyone that wants to know as soon as possible whether they are pregnant or not. If you are first time to this channel, welcome. I am so glad you are here. Be sure and subscribe to the channel so you get my regular videos all about reproductive health and pregnancy. And if you're coming back because you found content valuable previously, that is incredible. I really hope that you are following along and getting so much information. There are 2 other ways to learn from me, to stay in touch. Number 1 is my newsletter. You can follow the link in the description below to make sure that you don't miss any updates. And number 2 is my Brave and Curious podcast. It's an incredible deep dive into topics and interviews with experts in the field. You can follow along on my YouTube channel. There is a podcast playlist, or you can listen to the Brave and Curious podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Now, today we are talking all about implantation and knowing as soon as possible when you are pregnant or not. We're going to go over 5 main topics today. Number 1, we're going to go over exactly what implantation is. Number 2, we will review when implantation happens. Number 3, we'll learn the exact signs of implantation. Number 4, I'm going to help you try to tell the difference between implantation cramps versus period cramps. And number 5, we're going to go over lots of tips and lots of reassurance about this really important time in your family building journey. Topic number 1, what is implantation? Implantation is a magic moment when the embryo is implanting into the uterine lining. Remember that at ovulation, in the middle of your menstrual cycle, the egg is released from a follicle, a fluid-filled structure in your ovary, into the fallopian tube. The egg and sperm meet in the fallopian tube, and the embryo first develops in the fallopian tube. It goes from 2 cells, the egg and sperm cell, to a blastocyst, which is about 200 cells, in the matter of about a week. And about a week after ovulation, that mature embryo, that blastocyst, it's about 200 cells, implants into the uterine lining. Now, this is happening really before you get a positive pregnancy test, because a positive pregnancy test is from the hormone beta-HCG, which is made by the blastocyst cells after implantation. It is a communication of pregnancy has occurred. That beta-HCG talks back to the corpus luteum, that follicle in the ovary that was making estrogen before ovulation. Now it's making progesterone, and it tells that follicle, which is now turned into a corpus luteum cyst, hey, there's a pregnancy here in the uterus. You have got to keep making that estrogen and progesterone to support the uterine lining. And that is that message. Isn't that amazing? So the embryo implants, it makes beta-HCG. The beta-HCG talks to the ovary, the corpus luteum in the ovary, that follicle that is now turned into a hormone-producing structure called a corpus luteum, to keep making estrogen and progesterone. If you are not pregnant, that corpus luteum stops making estrogen and progesterone. It is the fall in estrogen and progesterone that signals menstruation or the release of that uterine lining. And that's when you get a period. So if the embryo implants, if you are pregnant, you are getting signals to not have a period. This is such an important time in your family building journey. Topic number 2, when does implantation happen? Well, it usually happens about 6 to 10 days after ovulation. So there is variability. That's why I tell my patients it's about a week after ovulation, because remember that egg and sperm have to fertilize, the cells have to develop. that embryo has to travel all the way down the fallopian tube into the uterine cavity, and implantation happens in that magic moment between embryo and uterine lining. Again, about a week after ovulation. If you have a 28-day cycle, which less than 25% of women actually have a consistent 28-day cycle, but if you do, you are likely ovulating around cycle day 14, and you are likely going to have implantation around cycle day 22 to 24. So if your period is expected around cycle day 28, implantation is happening in that window when you're curious and you're wondering if you're pregnant or not. That timing overlap of about to get your period, could you be pregnant, is one of the reasons why the symptoms can be so confusing. And the dominant hormone in this part of the menstrual cycle, this luteal phase, is progesterone. And progesterone can cause a lot of the symptoms that you're feeling in pregnancy as well as in premenstrual syndrome. So those feelings of water retention, gaining weight, breast tenderness because there's fluid retention in the breast. It can feel swollen and sore. Mood changes, food cravings, fatigue, all of these things are really dominant from progesterone being dominant during this time. And it can get so confusing. Are these symptoms because I'm pregnant, or are these symptoms because I'm about to get my period? A pregnancy test will not be positive on the day of implantation. You have to have implantation, then the creation of that pregnancy beta HCG hormone that has to actually build up to a certain level in your system for you to have a positive pregnancy test, a blood test, or a positive pregnancy test in the urine at home. It's hard because testing early is tempting, and it's because you're so anxious and want to know if you're pregnant or not. But sometimes the test could be negative and you actually could have had implantation and you could be pregnant. It's just not showing up yet in the tests. Topic number 3, what are the signs of implantation? Like, how can you know? There's 2 things that I talk to my patients about as signs of implantation. Number 1 is mild cramping, and number 2 is light spotting. So the cramping is what people want to know. Like, can I feel implantation? And I do have patients that tell me that they do. They say that they can feel implantation. They just knew the body was cramping, and they just knew it was at that time. Like, they get a positive pregnancy test later and they can look back and say, wow, I felt that implantation. I felt that mild cramping. And other people will be pregnant and not feel it. So that's another thing that can kind of drive you crazy. If you want that sign, just because you're not having the sign of mild cramping, that also doesn't mean that you are not pregnant. I know that's a lot of negatives. I'm just saying that you might have cramping at implantation and be pregnant. You might have cramping and not be pregnant, and you could feel absolutely nothing and still be pregnant. What about the light spotting? That's the other thing that sometimes people will report. Sometimes when there's implantation, there's actually a drop in estrogen. It's before the ovary is getting the signal from that pregnancy hormone from the embryo, and the estrogen levels are already kind of starting to drop a little bit. And the drop in estrogen can temporarily shed a little bit of the lining of the uterus. So sometimes people will get a little bit of light spotting. It may not necessarily be the physical implanting of the embryo that's causing that spotting. It could be the timing and the hormone fluctuations and the slight drop in estrogen and a little bit drop of progesterone. And before that sort of signaling and that warning, like, hey, we need more estrogen and progesterone to support this pregnancy, it could be that shift or that drop in hormones that is causing that light spotting. And again, just like with the mild cramping that some people get and some people don't, some people can get light spotting in the middle of their luteal phase, and then they'll be pregnant and they'll look back and say, see, that was a sign of pregnancy. Other people could get light spotting and then go on to have a full-blown period a few days later and say, gosh, that was just an early sign of me not being pregnant. And then some people get absolutely no spotting, just like some people get absolutely no cramping, and they could still be pregnant. So there is no one sign for every person. There is no one lack of sign for any person. And I'll also say that some people will actually have different signs and symptoms in different pregnancies. So some people will say, gosh, in my first pregnancy, I had cramping, I had light spotting. That's when I knew I was pregnant. And then all of a sudden they're pregnant again and they're saying, well, I didn't think I was pregnant because I didn't have any of the signs that I did in the past pregnancy. So this is all to say I really empathize with wanting to know as soon as possible. And I'm just wanting to reassure you that sometimes people will have signs of implantation like light spotting and light cramping, and sometimes people don't. And this really is a waiting game. Topic number 4, let's talk about that cramping though, because I think that there can be some slight differences between implantation cramping versus period cramps. I think of implantation cramps in 4 key ways. Number 1, mild, kind of like a little twinging or a pulling sensation. Number 2, brief. So not a prolonged cramp, but just a brief kind of slight pulling, awareness, a little bit of the sensation. Number 3, localized. So it's usually kind of central. It's not usually off to one side or the other. And number 2, it's not really progressive. It's just this awareness, this slight cramping, very brief. It's not something that lasts for a long time and gets worse and worse and worse. What about period cramps? I think about these in 4 ways as well when I'm trying to counsel my patients and trying to help them figure it out. Number 1, period cramps are usually more intense, more rhythmic, longer lasting is the second thing that's not as like brief and kind of goes away. Number 3, it can be more widespread and even kind of in your lower back. Pain, not like implantation bleeding, which is a little bit more centralized, a little brief, kind of shorter. And then really the period cramping is going to be followed by a heavy bleed or your full period, usually in about 1 to 2 days. But here's the catch too. Some people who are pregnant will have full-blown, it feels like period cramps. And that is actually not the sign of a flow or a period menstruation about to come. It can actually be a part of an early sign of being pregnant. The only way to know for sure is to do a pregnancy test. If you are testing early and the test is negative, maybe it's too early to catch and keep testing. And if it is, really the time of your period, the pregnancy test is positive, congratulations. But if you do get your period and the pregnancy test is negative, then this is just not your month. And I'm thinking really good thoughts for you. I'm glad you stuck around to the end. I want to give you some tips and some reassurance if you are in that 2-week wait and you are doing this YouTube search and Google search in the middle of the night saying, is that implantation cramping or is that spotting implantation? Sorry. Here are 4 tips for you. First of all, most people do not have symptoms of implantation cramping. The absence of symptoms is not a bad thing, and many people have healthy pregnancies without any signals or signs before a positive pregnancy test. Second, be careful with early testing. I'm not going to shame anybody for doing that, but sometimes it can just be a really intense emotional roller coaster. So do what is right for you, test when you want to, but just be careful with your emotions and your anxiety. And if it is really weighing on you, you can feel yourself really on a emotional spiral with a lot of early testing. Why don't you give it a break for a couple of days, because time will tell. Third tip, just be careful with what you read online. There's so much clickbait out there and really strong statements from people that are usually trying to create an emotion in order to get you to be pulled into their content honestly so they can sell you something. So just be really careful what you read online and make sure to ask your doctor and your healthcare team questions about the symptoms that you're having. Fourth tip is this is an excellent time to take care of you. Find things that you enjoy. Spend time with people that make you happy. Do the hobbies that you enjoy. Good distractions while you're in the 2-week wait can be really, really helpful. I do have a whole YouTube video here on tips for the 2-week wait. That would be a great next video to watch after you finish this. I'm really, really thinking about you on this journey. Please like this video if you learned something, comment with questions that you have, share this video with a friend that you know is in the 2-week wait and is just so nervous and anxious about these signs and symptoms. And be sure to follow this channel so you get my regular reproductive health and wellness information. Until next time, stay brave and curious.